has made Sean Combs a little bit nervous.
To me on that, when you say, yeah, he looked like the gay homie, I didn't know what you were talking about.
No, I wouldn't go to. Do you think this might be too early?
Much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims of sex crimes, we know who they are.
Sean Diddy Combs walked into the courtroom yesterday wearing a sweater over a white-collared shirt and gray slacks. He hugged his attorneys when he got in.
Apologized, saying, "Sorry, Your Honor, I'm a little nervous today."
8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women. How many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
Diddy strolled into that courtroom like he had it all under control. Cool, calm, and dressed like he was headed to a press event, not a legal battle. Rocking a clean-cut suit and dark shades, he gave off that boss energy. But underneath, the tension was screaming loud. You could feel it in the room, the hush, the stares, the weight of what was about to drop. Everybody sensed it. Something major was coming. And then, boom! 50 Cent's new audio hit the speakers, straight from his upcoming Netflix documentary that's already got folks buzzing. As soon as the first few words played, the whole room froze. Phones dropped, eyes locked forward. It was like the air got sucked right out of the place. Diddy's whole vibe flipped in a second. That unshakable, polished image, gone. You could see it. His face dropped, his body tensed up. The man who walked in like a king suddenly looked cornered. The recording caught him slipping in a way no one expected. His voice came through, casual and playful. Too playful. He was heard talking about wanting to go shopping with another man, saying he'd pay, and how they should kick it. On their own, those words might sound chill, maybe even harmless. But in the middle of everything swirling around his name, those words hit different. Real different.
Statement is something from, you can tell it's written by a lawyer. Because there's a point where it kind of gets aggressive. He's like,
not just by what was said, but how it fit into the bigger picture. All those headlines, all the speculation. It was like that clip gave them a new lens to view it all. The smirks were gone. The whispers turned into gasps. Diddy sat there, caught off guard, probably replaying those words in his head, realizing just how deep this rabbit hole might go. Gasps filled the courtroom. Some people looked straight up stunned. Others squirmed in their seats, unsure where to look. Even seasoned reporters in the back row suddenly went into overdrive, fingers flying across keyboards like they were racing the clock. They knew right then this was the story that would dominate every headline. And Diddy's team? They looked just as blindsided as the rest of the room. No one expected that clip to surface, not like that. The energy flipped instantly. The tension? Thick. Every eye locked on Diddy, waiting. At first, he froze, staring straight ahead like he didn't even hear it. No blink, no twitch. But as the judge gave the green light to keep the audio rolling, you could literally see him start to crack. His jaw clenched tight, hands gripping the edge of the table like he was holding himself back. Then boom, he exploded. Out of nowhere, Diddy jumped up, yelling across the courtroom. His words came fast, messy, heated, full of rage. He pointed fingers, his voice rising, trying to shut it down. "This is taken out of context," he barked. He claimed 50 Cent chopped the footage just to humiliate him, accusing him of twisting everything. The judge slammed the gavel, calling for order, but it was chaos. His lawyers rushed in, trying to calm him down, but the damage was done. That cool, composed image shattered on the floor.
Various charges against him. The 3 main ones are racketeering, basically extortion, sex trafficking, and the transportation of people across state lines.
And here's the wild part. This wasn't just some documentary. That Netflix project, it was a setup from the start. 50 Cent played it smart. Dropping the series right when Diddy was under legal fire wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated hit. He knew what he was doing, and he did it with precision. As both the producer and narrator, 50 made sure the documentary wasn't about praise or legacy. It was a public takedown dressed as entertainment. This documentary wasn't just for show. It was designed to cut deep. It peeled back layers that had been hidden for years, dragging out stories folks only dared to whisper behind closed doors. But the biggest punch? That private audio clip secretly recorded during what seemed like a chill conversation. When it played, Diddy's words didn't just sound off, They straight up made the whole room sit up. The tension skyrocketed. And guess what? That's exactly what 50 Cent planned. Now, people can say whatever they want about 50. Call him a master troll, a marketing mastermind, even ruthless, because he is. But this time, it's bigger than beef. Yeah, the back and forth between him and Diddy has been going on forever. Sneaky comments in interviews, cryptic posts online, constant shots that kept fans guessing. But when Diddy's legal drama blew up, 50 didn't just laugh and post memes, he loaded the big guns. He saw his moment and pounced. Instead of tossing shady tweets, he put together a whole Netflix doc with receipts. He made sure the world heard a version of Diddy most people never even knew existed. The type of stuff that's usually locked away in industry secrets and protected circles. But 50, he pulled that curtain all the way back. Is it personal?
Will you go out to the prison and will you visit him just for funsies? I don't know. Look, because you think that right now he can feel like I'm his enemy. Wait, what? Yeah, why would you feel that way? I mean, I'm not his enemy, the federal government.
But also a spotlight. A mirror held up to the face of fame, power, and the silence that surrounds it. And it's working, loud and clear. The fact that the judge even allowed that audio in court proves just how wild and explosive it really is. That one clip flipped everything. It wasn't just evidence. It was a full-on bomb that left jaws on the floor. This wasn't just some casual back and forth. It was raw, unfiltered, and straight up revealing. The kind of stuff people have been whispering about for years finally had a voice. And it was Diddy's own. As the courtroom speakers echoed with his words, it hit everyone. This wasn't just cringy, it was potentially incriminating. One of the wildest moments came when Diddy casually dropped, "Yo, why don't we go shopping? I'll pay for it." Said like it was nothing, like it was just another friendly offer. But the tone, the vibe, it was way off. No hesitation, no filter, no sense of boundaries. It felt more like a move than a joke, like he was trying something that crossed the line, and the worst part, he didn't seem to care. The courtroom fell into total silence. You could see people trying to wrap their heads around what they just heard, trying to make sense of something that sounded so out of pocket. And that wasn't even the whole thing. It wasn't just one offhand line. There were multiple comments, and together they painted a picture no one could ignore. He threw in talk about kicking it, and then, out of nowhere, a bizarre line about playing with your booty in Miami.
But I don't have that thing where, we didn't have no thing. I wasn't sending nothing at him, big. If it was on the street side like that, we would be actively doing things to each other.
That part? That had people looking around like, did he really just say that? Every single eyebrow in the room was raised. These weren't just strange slips. They fit a bigger pattern that people have been hinting at for years. Whether he meant them as jokes or not, saying that stuff on a recorded call was a major mistake. Especially now with serious accusations already circling his name, this kind of content only adds fuel to the fire. By the end of it, the courtroom wasn't just buzzing, it was shook. People weren't just questioning his choices. They were starting to believe the rumors might actually be real. This tape didn't just dent his image, it cracked it wide open. But this audio, it changed everything. It gave the public something real, something they could actually hear for themselves. No more guessing, no more whispers behind the scenes. This was straight up evidence that started connecting dots folks had been trying to piece together for years. And it didn't just float in the air, it hit hard, especially when you look at all the bigger accusations around Diddy's name. The way he talked in that clip, casual, careless, like boundaries didn't exist. That's exactly what people have been accusing him of for ages. Toxic behavior, power games, manipulation in the music game. And now, it wasn't just people talking, it was proof, live and raw, for the world and the courtroom to hear. Diddy couldn't control the story anymore. The tape did the talking. The second that audio got introduced at trial, the entire room felt the shift. It wasn't just a dramatic moment, it flipped the whole case upside down. The prosecution suddenly had something solid, something that cut through all the talk. Before this, most of the case was floating on allegations and rumors. But now, Diddy's own voice was pushing the story forward. Those casual, inappropriate comments weren't just weird, they gave the prosecution the ammo they needed. They could now say, look, this isn't some random story. This is part of a pattern. And just like that, Diddy's defense got shaky.
Now, Fifth, when you continuously call Puff gay, does that affect
No.
your relationships in Hollywood?
I don't call him gay. I said,
Let me read it,
Okay,
Fifth.
That cool image, the usual denial strategy, it couldn't hold up against his own words. And this wasn't just about one off color line. It was bigger. The audio backed up years of claims about controlling behavior, blurred lines, and that toxic energy folks in the industry had whispered about behind closed doors. Now, the prosecution had a weapon that wasn't just shocking. It was powerful. It showed this case wasn't about a single moment gone wrong. It was about a long-term pattern that couldn't stay hidden any longer. At this point, it wasn't just about the accusations anymore. It was about what that audio really said about Diddy's character. That recording exposed a side of him most people had only guessed at. And now, they didn't have to guess anymore. The consequences hit fast and hard. First off, Diddy's credibility took a major nosedive. His defense team looked completely caught off guard, scrambling to come up with some kind of explanation. But no fancy legal talk could clean up what was already out there. His voice, his words, no filters, no edits. The courtroom was stunned as the audio played. People looked around in disbelief like, is this really happening? And from that moment, Diddy's position in the trial started crumbling. His lawyers tried to spin it, acting like the audio wasn't that serious. But the more they tried to brush it off, the worse it looked. Their weak attempts only made the prosecution's case look stronger. The damage control came fast. A public statement from Diddy's team, claiming the audio was taken out of context, saying it didn't reflect his true intentions. But honestly, that explanation fell flat. Anyone watching the trial could see the truth. The damage was already done. The audio didn't leave much space for excuses. It was raw, it was real, and it pulled back the curtain on how Diddy really interacted with people. And when that courtroom moment exploded, the media went wild. News outlets, blogs, entertainment sites, they all jumped on it. The story spread like fire. That leaked audio became the centerpiece of every headline. Clips of Diddy's voice were played over and over again with experts and talking heads dissecting every word. People were glued to their screens, watching the courtroom chaos unfold in real time.
Could be a life sentence. The sex trafficking is 15 years minimum, and the transportation for prostitution purposes is 10 years minimum. So
it wasn't just a legal bombshell, it became a full-blown media circus. Diddy wasn't just on trial in court anymore. He was on trial in the court of public opinion, too. This wasn't just some court drama anymore. It had turned into a full-on spectacle that had everybody talking. The streets were buzzing, social media lit up, and people couldn't stop watching. It wasn't just what was said in the audio. It was the fact that someone like Diddy, who had always seemed untouchable, was now standing in the spotlight, facing serious allegations that couldn't be brushed off. The reaction, wildly split. Fans, celebs, and insiders all jumped in with opinions. Some heated, some heartbroken. Loyal fans came out swinging, saying the audio was just another hit job from haters trying to bring a legend down. These are folks who've rocked with Diddy for decades, and they refused to believe he'd do anything foul. They were holding tight, convinced this was just noise from the opposition. But on the flip side, some fans felt completely blindsided. That audio hit them hard. It was like watching your hero fall from grace. For them, this wasn't just a court case, it was personal. Years of rumors suddenly felt real, and that sense of betrayal ran deep. Social media was flooded with shocked reactions, long posts, and disappointed fans speaking out, questioning everything they thought they knew. And it wasn't just the fans talking. The industry had something to say, too.
There's really no deal that the U.S. Attorney's Office can offer, and it's certainly not one that Diddy will accept. It would involve decades in federal prison. We're talking about mandatory minimum sentences of 10 years for both the drug charges and the sex trafficking.
Artists started picking sides. Some backed away real quick, putting distance between themselves and Diddy. Others tried to stay neutral, offering vague support without saying too much. The music world is tight, and when one heavyweight goes down, everybody feels it. Some artists who had beef with Diddy in the past were like, "Told you so," using the moment to validate years of tension. Meanwhile, those still tied to him, professionally or personally, kept it cautious. No one wanted to speak too soon and get caught in the storm, but the silence from some big names, that said a lot. This wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It had ripple effects across the entire industry. Social media went crazy. The second the courtroom chaos hit the internet, platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok lit up with reactions. Memes dropped within minutes. Videos, hot takes, conspiracy threads, feeds were flooded. Everybody had something to say, and every post just poured more gas on the fire. People were either decoding the audio word for word or cracking jokes that went viral in seconds. This is how it goes in the internet era. One clip, one outburst, and suddenly it's everywhere. Instagram stories, TikTok stitches, live reactions, boom. The drama spread like wildfire. Diddy's courtroom explosion turned into a full-on cultural moment. And with social media leading the charge, the traditional media couldn't help but follow. Headlines multiplied. Commentary shows went in, and the case stayed front and center in public conversation. And while the drama unfolded, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a legal story. It was the latest chapter in one of the longest-running feuds in hip-hop, Diddy versus 50 Cent. This beef ain't new. It goes way back, nearly 2 decades deep. It all started in the mid-2000s when 50 Cent was at the top of his game, dropping chart-topping albums and calling out anyone who crossed his radar. And Diddy?
I don't know. I hope things are all right for him internally.
Speaking on?
I mean, at the crib. Because in the statement they mentioned this.
Oh, you talking Jay?
Already a major power player in the music biz, but that made him the perfect target. 50 launched straight-up verbal attacks, making it known he had zero respect for the mogul. No subtle shade, just direct shots. From there, the rivalry grew into one of the most talked-about feuds in the industry. Diss tracks flew, interviews turned messy, and social media became their personal battlefield. Fans took sides, and artists picked alliances. Every few years, the beef would flare up again, keeping their names tied together in the headlines. The first major spark, back in 2006 when 50 Cent dropped The Bomb, a diss track aimed right at Diddy. It was a public takedown that made headlines fast and kicked off years of back-and-forth shade. Since then, 50's kept the pressure on, accusing Diddy of being fake, throwing shots at his deals, and clowning him every chance he got. But Diddy, for years, he played it cool, calm, slick, like none of it fazed him. He refused to let 50 get the upper hand, until now. This time, things hit different. The courtroom chaos sparked by 50 Cent's Netflix documentary and that wild audio evidence just added a whole new layer to one of hip-hop's most heated rivalries. If you've been keeping up with this feud, you already know 50's been on Diddy's neck for years. So this latest blow? It wasn't a shock. It was just the next move in a long game of chess. That documentary wasn't just for views. It was surgical. 50 knew what he was doing. He dug deep, pulled out the messy stuff, and exposed parts of Diddy's past that had been kept under wraps for too long. From shady industry dealings to uncomfortable conversations caught on tape, 50 laid it all out. And the moment that audio hit the courtroom speakers, Diddy's polished image took a serious hit. This wasn't just another diss track or a petty jab online. This was a public spectacle that put Diddy in the hottest seat he's faced in years. For someone used to brushing off critics and playing it cool, this one was different. He couldn't just laugh it off or spin it with a statement, not when the world was watching and listening. Meanwhile, 50's been strategic with it all. Timing the documentary release to line up with Diddy's legal troubles? That wasn't luck. That was a calculated move to shake the game. And it worked. Whether you think 50's out for justice or just taking shots, one thing's clear. He's not letting up anytime soon. But now we want to hear from you. What's your take on this whole situation? Do you think Diddy's reputation can recover? Or is this the beginning of the end for his public image? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs the tea. See you on the next one. This drama is far from over.